listening to the RMPodcast, the official podcast of Red Moon Productions. Here are your hosts, Brandon Davidson, Keith Cheatham, and Sean Sebastian. Enjoy.
Welcome to yet again another episode of the Red Moon Podcast, live every single Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern on all your favorite social media networks. And you can download the audio version on Thursdays at midnight. I'm one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host. He's back, Sean Sebastian. He's real, flesh and blood, and he's not real.
I'm invisible.
You can't see him.
Keith! Dang it, Keith!
I did it. I said my name 2 weeks ago.
I know. I'm saying I tripped over you because you were invisible.
Oh, yeah.
Keith.
Oh,
That was actually
that
one
was
of
a
the,
good reference.
That would actually, I did laugh at that. My whole family laughed at that, but I think it was just more so because that's my name. So.
I only laughed at it
Yeah.
at the end, in the last.
In the very
instance.
Oh no, I
you weren't
laughed. We
expecting
laughed
that
at it
one.
every time. It was just funnier because that's my name too. So
We're kind of giving a little bit of a leeway or lead into our
review.
review of
Our review.
If.
I thought it was what?
Is it
What if? No, what if is Marvel and nobody likes that.
Oh, that's about what I feel like every time Marvel's mentioned
Every
these days.
time.
But no, is it imaginary friends or imaginary friend? I can't remember. They say, I think, imaginary friends in the movie. I don't know.
Well,
I
it
can't
stands for
remember.
Imaginary Friends. Now I don't know if the title of the movie is just like it's
It's just if, but I don't know if they.
Yeah, it stands for Imaginary
All right,
Friends.
Maybe
or friend.
I'm thinking way too deep about it. 'cause
Yeah,
the
no,
movie's not that
they're-
deep.
they're-
Both
if.
letters are capitalized, so
Yeah.
it's insinuating that it's imaginary friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it does
They're
deal
an
with
if. They're an
friends.
if. Yeah.
Well, Sean, we're glad to have you back.
I'm glad to be back.
I mean, you're going to be gone again next week.
I will.
So
It's like
just a busy time of
a
the year.
Busy, yeah.
Just
Summer's getting started.
Things happen, man. Things happen.
Yeah. Anybody vote today? Today was primary voting. Did anybody do their American
not.
civil duty?
I did not.
I did not.
Y'all are terrible.
I didn't even know that it was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I honestly didn't.
It
Either.
wasn't like on the news or
I
anything.
know.
Well, here's the thing. I kept getting.
I very rarely vote in primaries, but that is something I wanted to start doing more of. And yeah, I just didn't even realize today was primary voting day.
I kept getting pamphlets in the mail and seeing all the signs, and I kept thinking, like,
oh, I knew it was coming.
I
Yeah.
have an excuse though, and that is my Monday is a Tuesday. So I literally left out of my house to go to work, which means I had no spare time, even though your work is supposed to technically give you that time.
Yeah.
But
It opens up at 6 a.m. You could have got up at 6
No,
a.m.
but that's what I'm
gone.
saying is I didn't know until I left, and I passed by a bunch of schools, and I was like,
They're voting.
It's no
there's
time
voting
now.
today, and I was like, it's not a Monday, it's a Tuesday. And I forgot. It slipped my mind. So I didn't have enough time to go vote because I got out late and they were already closed. But it's okay. We got the big election coming in November. We'll vote then.
Oh, I definitely will vote then.
We'll vote then.
Yeah.
And then we can't complain about who's on the ballot.
Well, I won't complain about who's on the ballot, but I will.
But hey, if you vote, you can complain about who gets elected. There you go. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
But anyways, we got a great show. We got, of course, another packed show. Not a whole lot of, I know it. I know he's
It's
tapping
broken.
on it. I told you I was going to
Stream
get
Deck's
it.
broken.
It's not broken.
We
I
have
just updated this thing
We
too
have one
last week.
headline that I specifically need this for.
So are you going to push it?
You know what I'm going to do?
You're going to push it when I announce the headlines?
I'm going to not in the headlines, a specific.
Oh,
we'll
there
get
it
there.
is. It's on.
It's on.
I remembered this week.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah.
We do want to start off. We're not going to dive in too deep
Yeah.
to this headline, but we always, every once in a while when someone of note passes, we have to mention it
You gotta mention,
because it's
Pay
somebody that
respects.
exactly. You pay respects and mention their names, and that is the sad soul that left this earth at the age of 90. Oh crap! It's getting covered. 92, I think is what's
92. It is
92. Dabney Coleman passed away. The one movie I know him from. You can go ahead and push it.
I was going to wait till you were done talking.
Go ahead. Yeah, it's what we have to do.
You could have saved that for.
Yeah, you're gonna do
I like
both.
that one
You
better.
save that for Chris
I like
Pratt's
that one
stunt
better.
double.
There you go.
That's
Oh,
That actually-
I could have used one
Dabney's
for
worthy of something better than that.
That's Dabney.
You need like a
That's
Rudy
Dabney.
speech or something for him.
Win one for the Gipper. He wasn't even
Yeah.
in Rudy though.
No, I'm just saying like something
Something
meaningful.
good.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
gotcha. I gotcha.
I don't know.
Soulful.
Here, I remember him from a couple things. And the one you were
The
gonna
main one
mention,
I
yeah.
remember is Clifford.
Yeah.
I remember him in Clifford.
The work that I know him best from growing up was he voiced Principal Prickly in Recess,
Oh,
the
there you
cartoon
go.
show, and I used to love that show when I was younger. So like, I'm just sitting here thinking like, and I never connected those until like I read the article with it, like because I recognize who he is, and he's always played like a kind of a curmudgeon and prickly
Yeah.
person. I'm just like, oh yeah, that totally fits. Like he was that voice actor.
And Sean, you mentioned another role that he had played in.
Yeah, he was like in Beverly Hillbillies.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the villain in the
he's
Beverly
all-
Hillbillies
yeah,
movie. Yeah.
So I mean,
So-
it's just again one of those character actors you see in tons of stuff throughout their career. No doubt you've probably seen him, may not remember him or recognize him until you see his face. Sad passing this week, and then of course, as Sean just mentioned, another passing that was kind of tragic, and we're still waiting on details about this person's death.
Alec Baldwin got him.
He's running around with that revolver. He's running rampant in Hollywood.
Not to make light of the situation because it is sad that he's passed, but I don't
yeah.
respect Alec
fact,
Baldwin. So
I just put Chris Pratt's stunt double. I don't even know the guy's name. They put it in the article. I believe.
terrible.
I don't even have the article pulled up to
Let's see.
save me.
Tony
from this.
McFarr.
There it is. And unfortunately, they're waiting on the toxicology report from the coroner to find out what the cause of death is. I mean, 47 years
Yeah.
old, very young.
I just think it's crazy that it happened right around the same time the Fall Guy came
Well,
out.
that's what Chris Pratt mentioned. He was like,
did he? Yeah.
of a movie that is like
Yeah.
praising stuntmen for this to happen.
Yeah.
Well, I
He's
think
like,
that's maybe why this got as much recognition as it did. Because not to say it wouldn't be news, but I mean, stunt doubles have died in the past, and while
You
it
don't
is
ever hear
news,
about it,
they don't.
yeah.
Yeah, they don't. They rarely talk it up like this. So it's
But-
good to see they're actually getting recognition. Hopefully, for more than just tragic accidents.
Of course, I do hate when these deaths happen. One, for the families involved, but also it's like it's a somber way to start off the show, and we want to have a good time on the
Yeah,
show. We don't
yeah.
want to just talk about, we don't want to bring our audience down. So we've still got a jam-packed show full of headlines. We of course got our movie review of If coming up. I do want to give a shout out to somebody I work with, Kay Money. She wanted a shout out, so I'm giving her a shout out. And another guy who's going to possibly be helping us with some lower thirds on a special segment that I think we're going to be doing coming up in on our next multimedia segment, which is still about a couple weeks away.
Okay.
I'll talk to y'all about that off camera. But
Okay.
Dakota, if you're watching or you see this, I want to give a shout out to you because he's kind of shown me some of his. He does some stuff on the side for sports, and he's shown me some of it. And he threw one in there for us, and he was like, "What do you think about this?" I was like, "Hey, keep it up, man." I told him what the segment was.
we might not pay you either.
I don't get paid.
That's what I'm saying. It's like he's not getting paid either.
Hey, it'll be equal. All right, equal amongst all of us. None of us get paid for this.
Red Moon is a fully equitable company.
That's right. That's right. 100% across the board. In fact, trust me, there's a lot of sunk cost here. All right. But yeah, thank you all so much for tuning in. Hope you all enjoy the show. But of course, let's get into none other than our review of this evening. We went and saw the big movie on the block this week. It did
Became number one.
come in at number one, which I don't want to say is too surprising considering it's a family film.
Yeah.
Don't
And it
know
was
if it's
a
going to remain
low-
there.
I mean,
Garfield will take number one.
Oh,
next
this
week.
coming week.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
probably yeah, because it's known IP
Well,
and family property.
I would say Chris Pratt in
Yeah.
that one. You got the big names, but yeah, you're probably right. I think
Yeah.
it will.
Yep.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something else.
No, I was just
That's
I
it.
don't. If I was, I don't remember it now.
We just
'Cause he
talked about
interrupted.
this before the show. We do that all the time.
It's
on here.
okay.
So here is our review of none other than the movie If.
As we approach Memorial Weekend and the real kickoff to the summer, the normal bevy of franchise films and family films are arriving. With school soon to be out and summer vacation beginning, families used to look to the theater as a cool way to spend a day having fun. Now, we've had our fill of lackluster franchise films already, and while many of the family films slated for release are mostly established IPs as well, John Krasinski has stepped away from the horror suspense genre he dabbled in with A Quiet Place 1 and 2 to collaborate with Ryan Reynolds on a movie for their children. If, short for Imaginary Friends, has debuted as #1 at the box office this weekend, receiving poor reviews from critics, yet favorable word of mouth from parents. It's garnered an A cinema score and an 87 user score on Rotten Tomatoes. So we once again must ask who is right. Have critics misunderstood a solid family masterpiece? Or has Krasinski's latest work failed? Starring Kaylee Fleming as Bee, a 12-year-old girl who lost her mother at a young age, Bee has moved in with her grandmother in New York, while her father, played by John Krasinski, is hospitalized awaiting surgery for his heart. When she notices something strange following her on her way to and from the apartment one evening, Bee investigates, following the apparition to an upstairs apartment where she is asked to leave. The next day, she sees the creature again alongside a man named Calvin, played by Ryan Reynolds. Upon following them both, she is discovered, and Cal reluctantly accepts Bee into his apartment, where the existence of imaginary friends is revealed to her. Cal spends his days trying to reunite imaginary friends, or IFs as they like to be called, with new children after their original children have grown up and forgotten them. Bee, who herself has lost some of her childhood innocence from the passing of her mom and her worry over her dad, takes her dad's advice to be a kid the only way she knows how, by assisting Cal and rediscovering what it means to be a kid, and that what's gone doesn't always have to be forgotten. If is a sweet film suitable for families that children will more than likely love. It's fairly wholesome outside of a few bad words and phrases, but nothing outside of what you should expect with a PG film. Its messaging is muddled a bit, and while I do think there are some solid life lessons one could discuss with your child after seeing the movie, Krasinski himself poorly sticks the landing with accentuating some of these themes. That said, there aren't any messages or bad agendas in the film one need to worry about being told to your child. And while it doesn't reinvent the wheel, nor do anything completely unique or original, it's a much better alternative to some of the garbage Disney has produced lately, and there for me is the rub. Who is right, critics or parents? And the answer is a bit of both. No If isn't as well polished off as what critics may have been expecting after A Quiet Place. The imaginary characters aren't given as much depth as they could have been, and the themes don't come full circle, with the film ultimately feeling a little hollow. It's a fairly straightforward and slightly milquetoast film. On the opposite side, Krasinski is as charming as ever, Reynolds sarcastically entertaining, and newcomer Fleming does well as a disenchanted girl reigniting her childhood. Production design is grade A with excellent cinematography and set pieces, and while the story wasn't as fulfilling as I wanted, I did laugh often, and I felt there was enough emotion when it mattered. More importantly, however, what I want to emphasize most is that while the film may be a little lackluster for adults, it's smart enough, funny enough, and endearing enough to land well with children, and best of all, free of anything inappropriate. In an era when it's hard to trust what your kids can watch, it stands out as a slightly sentimental and wholesome film. And I think this is where the parents have got it right. Maybe it won't stand the test of time like Finding Nemo or Inside Out. It won't be considered an Oscar contender, and it's definitely far from that level of depth. But it's cute and fun and absolutely worthy of support from families wanting a solid movie to enjoy with their kids. Its faults I would attribute to Krasinski being a little out of his range, more than any trepidation or malice on his part. And the wins I attribute to his skill as a filmmaker and love as a father. It's a film that runs right down the middle, but one I would still gladly recommend. I give If 2 out of 4 stars.
There you have it. 2 out of 4 stars for If.
Yeah.
If only it could have been better.
I just find it milquetoast. It's not, like I said, I think kids will like it. And I mean, it's pretty tame and safe for kids. I mean, there's some curse words that I didn't feel like had to be in there, but at the same time, it's PG, so I didn't think there was anything in there that warranted, like I think PG's right. Like, that's the correct rating. It's just, it's one I think kids will enjoy, and that's about it, really. But at least it is, like, unlike what Disney has been churning out, I'll give it that. It's like, you don't have to worry about your child seeing something they shouldn't or being taught something they shouldn't. It's not trying to cram some type of crazy messaging down their throats. It's just kind of a milquetoast, as is family film.
Sean, what about you? What did you think of this film?
I gave it 1.5.
Whew, low end.
We took our sons to see this movie, and of course, like you said, they enjoyed it. My wife and I were bored to death through the movie. I didn't think it was funny. I thought Ryan Reynolds' acting was very poor. I thought the little girl's acting was even worse.
Oh, wow.
I felt like the imaginary friends were all too cartoony and not as alive as maybe some kids' imaginations would have created. But then you have Ryan Reynolds, who is an imaginary friend, who's a grown man.
Spoiler alert.
I'm
Whoa!
Spoiler! It's like
It's a twist, but it's a very obvious.
It's very obvious from the beginning.
Imaginary friend.
Nobody
I knew
sees
that was
him.
coming.
Nobody. I mean, it was just very much from the beginning. But again, it's like you've got a 10-year-old girl whose imaginary friend is a grown, good-looking man.
He was a clown,
but he doesn't dress like a clown or wear makeup like a clown.
Well,
so I thought that was a little bit
We
weird.
are spoiling.
No, that's a little bit not inappropriate, but I'm just like, that's kind of weird that this grown man is in the shower and in the bedroom and everywhere else with this little girl if he's an imaginary friend.
No, he's not a real man.
Besides that,
It never showcases him showering.
No,
or
I'm just
anything.
saying your imaginary friend goes with you everywhere.
I
so
had imaginary friends when I was little. They didn't shower with
I never
me.
had one, so I don't know
I
what
talked
that's.
to them while I was on the toilet.
I don't know what that's like.
I didn't have.
But
here's like I didn't that I could think of.
So
really
they watched
had-
you poop.
Yes.
Okay.
Big baby and little baby.
Oh yeah, was that your imaginary friends?
God. Wow.
I hear Big Baby and think of that baby from Toy Story 3. 'cause
Oh,
that's-
yeah.
Well, that's what it was
Yeah.
called. Was Big Baby.
Big
right?
baby.
That's it.
Big baby.
Big Baby. I personified toys. Like I'd carry a toy around with me and talk to it, and like it was my friend. But like I don't know that I mean, I would play games with. And like imagine there were people with me, like if I'm like a superhero or whatever, but I never really thought they were real. It was just my imagination, like, oh, I'm a superhero,
and it
or
wasn't
I'm fighting
one
yeah.
specific friend that followed you around everywhere.
It was just whoever
Yeah.
I needed for the story in my head. See, I've always been a writer.
Sure, there you
go.
I would come
Yeah.
up with like the story, and then I'd be playing because my parents would. I'd be like flipping around in the living room, pretending I'm with like a team of people fighting whatever evil, and they'd be like,
Yeah.
"What are you doing?"
Well, and it's
then I'd get
weird-
embarrassed because like I'm by myself.
But that was kind of what I think the movie's metaphor was in general
Yeah.
of using imaginary friends.
Oh, yeah.
It was trying to showcase how important imagination is to kids in general.
Yeah.
I think it did miss the landing. By the time the movie wrapped, I thought the message was a little hollow. I definitely was on the high end of the review, considering where we all landed. I was at 2.5.
Okay.
I actually was entertained by a lot of. I thought it was whimsical in parts where it needed to be. No, it wasn't hugely emotional in terms of some of I think the heartwarming moments that I think John Krasinski was trying to land.
yeah.
I mean, obviously, I
Hey,
liked.
my niece cried, and it was great. I loved it.
And,
It was,
that's that's touching.
Wow.
I like that.
the
That's
scene
good.
of the girl in the hospital with John Krasinski. Yeah,
I couldn't
Well,
do
you're
that.
you're
I'm
a
like,
30-something-year-old man.
I know,
She's a
but
6-year-old girl.
And I got what she was saying was very
Yeah.
was very moving, but the fact that the hospital calls them and tells them to come now,
Yeah.
and when they get there, there's nothing wrong with him.
Yeah.
Hospitals don't do that. They don't call you until you get here now.
And therein lies some of the problems.
He's
that I
just
had
resting.
with
Yeah.
with the film is that it plays a little loose, too loose for my liking.
Yeah.
Like it's weird. Okay, so there were certain elements like in the very opening. I'm not spoiling nothing. We kind of already spoiled a lot.
I spoiled it before you all even saw it. So
But no, here's the thing. There was a part in the beginning where they showcase home footage.
Yeah.
And you obviously know it's a story of loss with their mom being involved. But the way they show it with just, they don't overtly tell you what she dies of. You just see her with a bandana on in a hospital. Okay, you get it. Okay, cancer. She's having chemo.
That's what it was.
Oh, wow. You know,
I thought she got cholera.
I know. Look at me.
Alopecia.
Here I am.
Alopecia. Yeah.
It's like, oh, come on. It's Will Smith's wife. But no.
I'm gonna slap you.
Jade, come on.
Keep on, Chris. Keep his wife's name out of your.
PG show.
Yeah,
PG.
yeah.
But no,
Hey,
so
PG-13 allows for one.
I said
We're
PG.
PG.
We're PG.
Okay.
Today.
Soon that'll be one.
Tonight.
Soon. But no, there are moments like that where they at least showcase. They show don't tell.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like that. Then you get to the parts where John Krasinski's, like I said, the time lapse of the film is not you don't really know how long it's supposed to lapse. It seems like in my mind about a month or 2 months, maybe Keith, you said during the review like a summer.
Yeah.
Either way, that's not the problem I have, is not the time lapse itself, but the fact that she continues to keep going back and visit John Krasinski in the hospital before an operation is even done. I'm like, people don't just have extended stays
unless you're like on your deathbed.
Right.
Yeah.
And now if he had an operation done and he was in there and kept having complications, and trust me, I liked the touching moments where she goes and she even makes friends with one of the patients there.
Oh, yeah.
That's a kid. I thought that was sweet and genuine.
No, I agree. Yeah.
I actually did think the girl, she's a very young, promising actress. I think.
Yeah, I thought she did fine.
I thought she did great for a newcomer, and I honestly thought, oh wow, this is somebody who I could see. She doesn't. I mean, this isn't the type of film that warrants a very hard or like impassioned script that showcases something like Millie Bobby Brown did when you first saw her in Stranger Things.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna put it
Haley
on that
Joel
level.
in Sixth Sense.
Yeah, and it's funny because both of those you could argue are drama pieces.
Yeah.
And maybe those show more range.
Yeah.
But I think for the range that this movie, for one thing I absolutely loved that Krasinski did with the story with regards to the girl is you see this opening montage knowing she loses her mother. She's coming back to stay with her grandma while he's potentially going to be getting the surgery. And yet it could have easily been, oh, she's depressed, she's heartbroken, and she hates life. And then these imaginary friends usher her back. No, she didn't seem disenfranchised. She still kind of seemed like, okay, I've had enough drama, like I want to grow up. She felt like just a normal kid in a preteen stage of I want to, I'm she's awkward and wants to get out of the kid age. I get that resonated with the same feelings I think we've all had at that age. But I like that they didn't make
it's not cool to watch Power Rangers anymore because you're grown.
But you're still gonna sneak it, and Rugrats too.
No, that's why I've all.
It's true.
No, that's why I moved on to Dragon Ball Z because that was the more mature Power Rangers.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Anime is more mature.
They cussed and there was blood, so that made it more adult.
And they even there you go. But no, I thought he did a good job of not making her a cookie cutter, stereotypical, we're going to have this preteen girl who's got angst and moody because she lost her, and like, what do I have to live for? And then all of a sudden now she has this huge about face by the end of the film. No, I thought it played very naturally. I thought the girl not only showed like a childlike wonder that she was falling back akin to throughout the film. It didn't seem foreign to me. Yeah, the performances from like Ryan Reynolds or even Steve Carell, honestly, a lot of the notable ones, a lot of the imaginary friends.
Yeah.
It seemed like a cheap tactic to put in a bunch of famous people as voice actors.
When they each only had like a few lines each, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And none of them, like even the big blue character that Steve Carell plays, I didn't think...
Purple.
His name's Blue.
His name is Blue.
I know you're
but he's
colorblind
purple, right?
too, so maybe you couldn't tell the difference.
Well, based on how I watched it, also, the colors were a little washed
Because that was
out.
the joke, was his name was Blue, but he was actually purple because his kid was colorblind.
Like a big grimace.
Yeah.
Honestly, he's like a fatter grimace.
Yeah, he was.
No, I thought, yes, the story could have been tightened up. The dialogue could have been tightened up. Or when I say that, it's not that the dialogue is bad. I just felt like some of the overarching themes of the film that were trying to be more tugging at your heartstrings didn't land quite as much because at the end the message was a little hollow. And the one thing in the ending that I really didn't like, and again I don't want to spoil too much, I didn't really, even though it was supposed to be fun and cute that you have all these adults catching up with their old imaginary friends, I was like,
too convenient.
Convenient, and also a little bit, it underscored what the premise of the film was, which was her aging and growing up. And I almost was like, okay, but the whole idea is that, maybe they're there to kind of push you on, but they're not there to comfort you endlessly.
Well, I think it broke the idea of like, even though like something may be gone, they're still with, because it's like when Blue helped his kid as an adult, he didn't see him, but he felt like just his presence with him to give him the confidence to go in.
You're right.
And it's like, and I like that, and the way I really wanted to tie it through, and I do think this was part of the theme, but he just didn't bring it back together, was the idea, because her mom being gone, it's like, well, because she's gone doesn't mean like you have to forget her or that she's no longer with you.
Right.
And he didn't really like, while I do think that was an intended theme, he didn't bring any emphasis back to that by the end of the film. I almost expected the bear to be revealed as her mom's imaginary friend, because I thought that's how they were going to connect the two.
That would've been good.
When they're sitting on the bench and he's like, you just close your eyes and remember, and it shows the fair and her parents taking her to the fair, and then the bear was the stuffed animal. I was like, oh, that'd be cool if that was her mom's imaginary friend and he's teaching her this lesson of, even though your mom's gone, she'll always be with you. But then it just never landed, and I was like, well, dang, like that would have been a much more powerful moment.
And that might have been very well what he was alluding to.
I think in some ways, like, it was. It's just like he never really brought it back around.
I guess my adult mind is going into the fact that if you don't exist, then your imaginary friend doesn't exist anymore either. So if the mom is dead, then the bear imaginary friend can't be alive either.
Well, he
she's
never
not
said
imagining.
he was her. Like I was saying, I just would have
I know.
liked it
I'm
better.
just saying that.
And honestly,
that's where I would have went with it. I'd have been like,
that kind of goes
sense now
to another part of the film that I felt was a little lackluster, which was when they do finally get in touch with who their person is. I mean, again, it's kind of part of the plot. I don't want to.
But
even
that was like, some of them are side characters, like people that you saw for 2 seconds in the film, like the secretary or whatever.
Well, and exactly, and it didn't land because nothing happened after the fact. They were still around, and I was like, oh, maybe this is the way in which after they have their final send off, they. I mean, honestly, for all intents and purposes, Inside Out does it better with Bing Bong. Yeah. I mean, talk about an emotional send-off, and I mean, the one that does it well.
You were talking about crying about an imaginary friend.
Right. and just does it so much more emotionally well, but also how it serves the plot in that movie. And again, it serves as a good lesson for children in moving on and growing up. Yep. And I thought at the end of this film, that's what we were going to get. And there's a little bit of that with the final monologue. But I also, this is a problem that, and I'm not going to blame John Krasinski. I think it's just a problem with Hollywood in general. And this was kind of my overarching critical issue I had with the film as a whole. And that's any film these days that try to preach somewhat a secular message, they don't have any legs to stand on. They don't have anything of real value that they can preach. So therefore, they have to kind of go for this feel-good message. And a lot of times that feel-good message,
it's hollow.
It is. It's hollow. It's a mile wide and an inch deep. And so you're trying to like throw all these like frou-frou-y statements out there to get something to land and stick that connects with somebody for them to be like, oh, that was so heartwarming and heartfelt. But if you're not being honest and you're not being true about what real morals and convictions you have, whether it's in this movie as a kid growing up or in life in general, then I hate to say it, but at the end of the day, your movie then is not going to have those legs, to stand on by the time the credits roll.
Yeah, well, that's why, like you said, like with Bing Bong and Inside Out, or I mentioned to you when I was recording the review, Toy Story 3, it's like when you take something that isn't real or inanimate, like the toys that are alive or these imaginary friends, it's not that I think you're incapable of feeling emotion towards them, but the movie has to personify them in a way and give them depth and character in a way that you can relate to them and feel like they are real. Like when the toys are about to enter the furnace in Toy Story 3, you're sad because over the course of 3 movies, you've like they have become real
these are
characters.
CGI pieces of plastic.
Yes, but then it's like in this movie when they're terrified of disappearing because their kids are forgetting them. It's like, okay, I don't really. You haven't given me a reason to really care.
Okay, honestly, I mean, Toy Story 2, when freaking Jesse.
Oh, that scene was just hard. It's when like, somebody loved me.
Yes,
I know what scene you're talking about.
I mean, talking about that. Ripping your heart out.
Yeah,
and you're like, and it's a freaking,
it's a toy,
made up toy.
It's like, why are you upset about a toy?
But it is. It's the meaning behind it that matters most. And this movie just
didn't have meaning behind it. Yeah,
and it was disappointing. Like Sean, I know you came out the lowest rated for us, but even with my 2.5. It was definitely one where I only landed on that because I saw the potential, and ultimately I just kept thinking, this is of all the crap that is out there that kids watch these days, and especially your streaming stuff. I mean, I know of all the stuff my nieces and nephews will run up to me and tell me they're watching on Netflix or they'll turn something on, and I'm like, I've never even heard of this. So of all the garbage that is just kind of shovelware out there, this is something that I think is at least a little bit more, it's something the family can watch. It has a little bit more of a higher production value, and it's safe.
And that's where I would probably, even though I gave it 1.5, like I do appreciate that it was a film that I could go see I did have to read about it before because I do
You
just,
can't
with just
trust
about
Hollywood,
everything.
yeah.
That's
but,
true.
But after going and seeing it, I'm like, when that comes out on streaming and my kids want to watch it on replay 1,000 times, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit and watch it again.
No.
I mean, I'm going to be on my phone
But
when
you
I
know
do.
you can put it on
But I
and you
know
don't have to
I know
monitor.
it's safe, and I
Yeah.
do appreciate that they made a film like that because it's like you said, the stuff that's out there today. Like I'm pretty particular of what I let them watch.
Yeah.
And it's hard to find a movie that you can trust.
Yep.
And so I do appreciate that part of it. It's just it was one of those movies that just kind of fell
He
flat
said that was
with us.
the only thing he appreciated
That's
about
it. Yeah. I mean, I appreciate that Ryan Reynolds, didn't use his Deadpool language in the movie.
It's funny because the only cuss words I think that are in the movie at all do come. I mean, it's not terrible, but I mean, like
They
I
come
think
from
like,
him.
like the only 2 or 3 that are in it
Yeah.
do
And
come
it was
from him.
funny because if I was gonna nitpick any of that, again, it's
Yeah.
PG.
Yeah,
I mean, and
yeah.
trust me, I've heard a lot worse than The Sandlot or
Right.
The Goonies.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I mean, come
yeah,
on,
we can't watch the Goonies yet.
Right.
But I was surprised at how much was in Sandlot
Yeah.
when I watched it with my kids.
Right.
I'm like, I don't remember all this
But
cussing
that's what
in this movie.
That's what I find endearing about it because, of course, when I watched it as a kid, one, you're thinking that's the rebel in you because you're
Yeah.
seeing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, it's just like it's weird because, and maybe because I'm biased because those were movies I grew up with.
Yeah, I did too.
There's certain things I hear in those where I'm like, oh, that made sense because it actually landed there. Like it felt natural.
It had a purpose.
Whereas in this film, there were times where even hell or
Yeah.
they
just-
say, "Oh my God!" Like there were certain times where
Yeah.
those landed, and I was like, "That felt a little forced."
They were
Yeah,
there for
not
like
natural.
to try to be comedic, but I'm like, it's not comedic, especially because it's a children's film
Yeah.
and it wasn't necessary. Like I don't know. Like,
right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I would say if there was one thing content-wise to nitpick, I would agree.
I remember being a kid watching the Ninja Turtles movie and Raphael in the middle of the street just yelled, "Damn!" And I thought
Yeah.
that was like the most hardcore
Yeah,
thing ever
that's it.
Yeah.
because I'm a kid and this turtle's sitting here, "Damn!"
And they didn't they didn't talk that way in the
Not in the
comics
cartoon.
or the con.
Well,
or
the
con-
original
or-
comics actually are pretty adult, but the
Oh, really?
the
Yeah.
80s cartoons not.
Yeah, the
at
80s
all.
cartoon
It's
wasn't.
very
tame.
Yeah.
But all right, that's our official review from Red Moon on the movie If, 2 out of 4 stars. I think we're ready to move into our headlines.
Yeah.
Let's roll that.
Okay.
Whoa, whoa!
That's all you get.
I was shocked.
Well, there it
He
is.
joined in.
Yeah.
There it is.
He's been out to. This is all we need to do is get Sean to miss a few weeks.
Couple weeks, I'm back.
And he's back.
with a
He's back.
vengeance.
He's scatting over there.
Man's back.
He
feels it in his soul.
Scat man
scat all over
Sean.
myself.
I don't have any camera underneath the table. Are his feet moving?
No, they're
No,
crossed.
they're crossed.
I saw a little tap.
No.
No, they haven't come uncrossed since we started.
He said he doesn't. When
He's like Steve
one
Martin
of them,
in
one
the
of them's
jerk.
asleep.
when he sits down, he doesn't uncross his legs.
That's right.
He's like Steve Martin in the jerk. Have y'all seen that?
I have, but I don't know what you're talking about.
Is it the jerk? It's the one where he's adopted by a black family.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then he comes in there and he's like, I got
Oh, yeah.
rhythm.
Okay. I was thinking of crossing legs.
I'm a
Oh, no,
drummer.
no, no,
I've
no,
got
no.
rhythm.
Oh, well,
What
you're
is
better
that?
than me.
I just remember
don't.
the scene where he's like, was it like the paint thinner where he's like, somebody hates paint thinner or whatever.
I don't
Oh,
know.
because he's
that.
shooting the
Yeah,
cans.
he's trying to shoot him, but he keeps hitting
Yeah.
the cans, and he's just
Somebody
like,
hates this paint thinner.
yes, so stupid.
Dude, that
It's a stupid movie.
I would say
but
that,
it's funny.
along with like I've seen so many clips recently of like Naked Gun on
Yeah.
like
Oh,
Instagram
yeah, yeah.
Reels.
Man,
and I'm
those
just
are
like,
Yeah,
Because that people
they're pushing for the
telling you.
remake. I think they
Well, that's what
virally put that crap back out to try to push
Well,
for
they
the
know
remake.
that's what people. Because I was thinking about that with a bunch of things where you see all these. Because I saw an ad today for the new horrible-looking Married with Children animated.
Oh, gosh.
It's all the original voice actors, but it's animated because they're
Oh
all
my
old. And
gosh,
well,
are you
they-
serious?
Yeah, they're all
I
the
didn't know
actors come
that.
back to do their voices because they're all old and can't physically act
Sam
anymore.
O'Neill is like, or Ed O'Neill.
But
he's-
it looks because it doesn't look like the original. Like you could tell, like they're taking advantage of being a cartoon, so they're doing much more outlandish stuff. And I'm
Yeah.
like, that doesn't sell it to me.
No.
And like, what's happening is like that's one of Hulu's like highest streamed shows is the original Married with Children.
wow.
I'm
So
watching
that's
it right now.
what spurred it.
And the same thing with like Disney Plus and with all these other streaming services that are making like it's like they're noticing that everybody's watching all the old content because
Yeah,
they hate their
'cause
new
they hate the new
content.
stuff.
So
Yeah.
now they're just like, well, what if we just bring back the old content
And ruin it.
Yeah, yeah.
More or
Yeah.
less.
Yeah.
That's exactly
It's
what
just
we
gonna
get
make
now.
people go back and watch the old content again.
That's
Yeah.
all
I
that
mean,
happens.
I'm like, I'm not going to watch this new
But
Married with Children thing.
there's a Karate Kid remake that's coming soon, and they've started putting the Karate Kid films.
Is this the
back
third
on-
remake?
I think this is supposed
Because
to actually
Jaden
be.
Smith
and
This is supposed to actually be, I think, a continuation, like off of like the show, and it's a movie.
it's connecting
Cobra
with Cobra
Kai?
Kai.
Yeah,
because it's going to have
Okay.
Daniel LaRusso and and all of them are going
I'm
to be back
actually
in
not opposed to that.
It's a movie that's going to continue, and they even hinted that maybe they would bring in the remake and connect it all. So like that one was part of the universe too.
I mean,
because they
because-
talked about having Jackie Chan in
Jackie
it.
Chan.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
what it
yeah,
was.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
it is weird because I know Cobra Kai's last season's coming out this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's in the fall. They just actually had the trailer drop recently, and I haven't seen it yet. But it's coming out, and it's the final season.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, honestly, I'm surprised at how long that show. I liked it
Mm-hmm.
up until about the.
Yeah.
Are they on the? I think sixth is the
Sixth
final.
is the final season.
So I watched, and I haven't seen season 5, and I've heard it
I
gets
haven't
pretty
either.
outlandish.
yeah, I mean it's just even season 4. It's,
Talk about-
it's just like so over the top.
Modern day like Power Rangers without
Yes,
the outfit.
yes.
It's like kids
Yeah,
just
I
showing
can
up
see
at
that.
places and fighting.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
I love it. I mean the fact
I'm
they-
okay with camp if it's done
Exactly.
well. Like if it adds personality to the show
But
and it's funny.
it's too much back and forth.
Yeah.
They're enemies, now they're buddies. Now they're enemies again. Now we hate
They
each other.
do-
Now
they
we're
do
buddies.
a lot of
yeah,
mixing.
it's a
I
back
do
and
hate
forth.
when they overdo melodrama.
Yes.
Like, it's
well,
like, yeah.
but it's also because it's literally like a soap opera. But
Yes.
at least a
Yes.
soap
Yes,
opera
soap opera with
is
ass kicking.
span. Yeah,
and I'm
That's
okay
all
with
it
that.
is.
But when you make the melodrama just too much, like
Yeah,
I agree.
yeah.
Like I it's just
Well,
like okay,
a
let's
soap opera lasts months on end. You're talking about what happens in a year in a soap opera happens
Yeah.
in like 10 episodes.
Episodes, yeah.
And it's like, okay, they were
Yeah.
friends, now they're not, now they're friends
friends,
again.
yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
it's constant back and forth with the same characters. And you're like, eventually something's got to happen.
Yeah, somebody's got to
Yeah.
die.
Yeah.
eventually.
I mean,
mean,
somebody's
eventually
head's going
somebody
to
needs to die.
explode.
Eventually, we'll discuss the actual headlines.
Yeah, true.
Well, I actually did want to bring up one that we covered last week.
Oh man.
We've been passing it around in text, and we got an official word on it. And
Oh,
that
yeah,
was
yeah,
the streaming package calling Streaming Savior. Savior?
Stream
Whoa.
Saver.
Stream Saver.
Streaming savior.
It's coming from Angel Studios.
Yeah.
Yes. They're trying. They're
They
trying to
have,
save
they have
it.
the best content from the east to the west. Sorry,
Like,
that was bad.
That was bad. I don't even know if that was a dad joke.
No, it's because he's cast your sins as far as the east is
no,
from
I
the
get
west.
it. I'm
He's just saying he doesn't even know if that's worthy of being
But
a dad
It's not
joke.
worthy of a dad joke. That's
No.
worthy of a pastor joke, right there.
Those are pretty bad.
Yeah.
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 But no. Yeah, I was gonna say it's Angel Studios, Daily Wire, and Babylon Bee. Streaming
What's
Savior.
the other studio that's actually made a few good ones? Kingdom
I'm not
Pictures, or they're the one that did the one that was kind of a hit recently with Jennifer Garner or whatever.
Oh, I know what
Yeah.
you're talking about.
Yeah,
and I'm forgetting.
It's Kingdom something is the name of their studio, but they've actually made a few that have
Yes.
garnered some decent reviews.
But ultimately, no. The Stream Saver
Yeah.
is Netflix, Apple TV Plus, and Peacock for $15 a month. Other than the price, no other details have been announced. We don't know what tiers that includes of each of those services.
Yeah.
But you get those 3 streaming services for $15 a month. More than likely, it's going to be the SD ad
With ads.
tiers.
I was like,
Yeah.
we said at most you might get HD with ads. So it's what like because it's $15.99 or 15 something. Netflix is HD ad free, so I'm like, they're not going to give you if theirs right there is at 15. They're not going to give you all 3 for $15 ad
way.
free 4K. That's not happening.
No. The only other way that I think it would happen, and this would be also kind of weird, and I don't know how they could do this, is if they restrict certain content. Like, because you have this
I was thinking
bundle.
Netflix might do that.
Netflix has done that because some of their stuff, I think,
It's only available for premium
yes,
subscribers.
because there's certain things
Yeah.
that because of the deal contracts they have, like they can't have ads, so they don't give it to the ad free to the service with ads.
I don't think Zack Snyder's movies are available on the SD with ads.
and we know why that is.
I know, I
Because
know.
he
We can
wants
make
you
fun
to
of
watch
it,
that in 4K.
But I'm saying I think there are some original films and stuff like that you can't watch unless you have their mid to high
Pay
tier.
us more money or
Yeah.
you can't watch what you want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we'll keep tabs on it, see what that includes as more details roll out. But there you go. I mean,
That's
if you're
it.
looking for a cheaper bundle,
I bet
I
they'll
don't think
have
that's
another.
too bad.
I think they'll have other tiers. I think that's just the
They might
bottom.
eventually,
I bet
yeah.
that's the bottom tier.
Or they may just include this segment of here's what we're going to offer in this type of package, and it will still be limited. again, kind of like cable. It's going to be like, oh yeah, you can buy this, or you can subscribe to the full package on our own.
That's all streaming has become, is the new cable. It's like, what type of bundled service can you get for the streaming? You know, instead of bundling cable packages for certain channels, now we're bundling packages for streaming services.
And it's just corporations doing the same bidding. I mean, they're just picking which streaming services they want to bundle together.
Yep.
So we'll find out. We'll see how it shakes out. I think it's going to be offered early June is when they're expecting the rollout to occur. So we'll see. But no, the main headline we want to talk about tonight, the one that's leading our show, I call it The Fail Guy. Already on digital.
Makes me sad.
A movie that is
already
one
on
of our
Plex.
highest rated.
Mine too.
One of our highest rated films of the year. Already out 2 weeks after release on digital.
And I like the article Sean sent that really kind of discussed how, like, I get like the studio's mindset of, well, it's not making money in theaters, so let's put it out so people can buy it digitally and we'll recoup costs that way. But it almost is just like the article says, is it almost destroys its chance at making money, because in the past, because I remember movies used to be in theaters for months at a time, and they would get less screenings and less theater rooms to show in as time went on, because they want to make sure the new releases are more readily available. But there's times, especially if a month's heavy in releases, where it's like, okay, I'm gonna watch this new release and this new release, I really want to see this other movie, but I'm gonna wait 3 or 4 weeks because I want to see these two more. And it's like, now it's like, if you wanted to see like Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes and you wanted to see If for some reason before Fall Guy, I don't know why you would. It's like you wait 2 or 3 weeks thinking, well, I'm going to watch this movie, then I'm going to watch Furiosa. Oh crap, I can't watch Fall Guy now. It was only in theaters 2 weeks.
Yep.
At the same time, they're taking old films and bringing them back into theaters for another run.
Yeah. Yep.
Like Star Wars again. And I'm like, that's great if you want to go see. If you didn't get to experience that, by all means, go see episode 1 in the theaters. But
it's like there's this odd catch-22 that the studios are playing now, where ever since COVID, and then they, of course, the theaters, NATO, National, what is it? National Association of
Theater Owners.
Not the national not NATO.
the national NATO.
Yeah, national NATO.
National NATO.
Not the tornado.
But that's coming in twisters. But no, they went back and forth with the production studios, and of course they ushered in, like, they wanted to have at least a 30-day mandatory. Now granted, with this one being released in under 30 days on streaming, my guess is maybe the theater owners like kind of came together and was like, well, it's not making any money anyway, we don't care. So it could have been released by virtue of that fact alone. However, it's kind of sad and disheartening to see theater owners allow this to happen when they fought so hard to save their own business, because they thought, oh, streaming is going to be the death of us, that people are at home due to COVID streaming everything, and they want everything released on digital day one. And then they almost feed into that beast when something like this happens, because they're thinking, oh, well, nobody's even coming to see this movie. And instead of actually allowing it to kind of have some legs and maybe find some growth a little bit down the road, it's like, yeah, if you don't see a movie day one when it comes out in that first weekend, or even if you have the mindset of, I saw a tweet about this yesterday. It was like, it used to be that you could say, well, we'll wait till the second week, and when the crowds died down, and we'll go and catch it. And now it's no, it's too busy the first week, and it's not. You just assume that because that's the way it used to be.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden you're like, next time you actually think about going to see it, you're like, it's not even in theaters anymore.
Yep.
And I do find it kind of surprising, because that's actually not the case either this time around. It released today on streaming. You can buy it. I think the only platform I saw where you could rent it was Apple TV, but all the other sites were buy for $20, and it still has theater showings here locally. So you still have it.
It'll
in
probably still be in
cinemas.
theaters for a little bit.
Yeah.
But it just kind of destroys its chance in the theaters if people, once you give it to people to view at home, a lot of people will. And it's sad because, one, I mean, Hollywood's not doing a good job of putting movies in theaters that people want to go to the theater to see anyways. You go to the theater for an experience.
Right.
And if the movie's garbage, you're not going to get that experience, so you don't want to go.
Or the AC is broken.
Oh, yeah. That's
AMC.
That's on AMC, who's terrible. If your theater's actually good, like Cinemark has been, it's like you want that awesome theater experience, but Hollywood's not providing that. And then when a movie like Fall Guy comes around that can give you the theater experience you want, well, because people aren't used to going to the theater again because they don't trust Hollywood. Hollywood's just like, well, no one went and saw it. Let's pull it right away, or we'll leave it in theaters, but we're going to put it on digital, knowing that everybody's just going to buy it on there anyways and not go to the theater, which screws the theater owners.
Yep. And I mean, it makes sense for the consumer because if I can pay $20 and watch the movie as many times as I want, I'm going to do that rather than pay $20 to go see it once.
It benefits the studio too.
Yeah.
Think about it. They're probably wanting it to get there for people who are willing to take that chance, or if they hear good reviews and they hear good word of mouth, they're like, well, we'd rather take the $20 now up front and know that we're making some kind of monetary gain than it just sitting in theaters where it continues to dwindle and basically nobody's buying it. Again, I don't know how that works in terms of economics with how if you keep it in I mean, I'm sure the theater owners, of course, if a movie does really poorly, they pitch it immediately. But even if something as big as that release, can the studios, do they have enough leverage to be like, no, we want to keep it a little longer to see how well it does? Because obviously it used to be back in the day, certain films would stay in the theaters long enough that it sometimes grew some legs, and it was only in maybe the second month that it really started getting popularized.
Didn't Top Gun Maverick do that? Top Gun Maverick did better the further it went.
I was going to say, it started out huge, but word of mouth, and it picked up steam as it went on.
Yeah,
and it actually
ramped up pretty good. Yeah,
and it was kind of not unsung. It was a unknown hero at the time at the box office because nobody expected it to do as well as it did.
Well, there's been E.T., Titanic, Return of the King. There's been movies that have like been in theaters for almost like an entire year because like they just have done so well.
Titanic
and that would be very rare nowadays.
I think Titanic came out in December. I forget, it was a December of 96 because it won the Oscars in 97. And it was in theaters, I think, until July.
Yes, yeah, it was like
August?
6 or 7 months.
But I mean,
or longer.
and it's crazy because it was like, again, back then, going to the theaters was can you fact check me on that? Because I really don't know. I know
E.T. and Titanic both had long.
Lord of the Rings was the same way.
Yes,
Return of the King, and even it was on the tail end of that. Was big. Those windows were getting shorter because I even remember Return of the King definitely came out in December, and I remember buying it on DVD, or my parents bought it on DVD, and it was like in July, but it had already been out of theaters for like maybe a month.
Titanic ran for 54 weeks. It came in. It released December 19th, 1997, and ended October 1st, 1998.
That's insane.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That is.
I mean, heck, and think about this too. To correlate the two, James Cameron's Avatar: Way of Water released in December, and when did it wrap? It was quick, and it still made $2 billion. Yeah. But it was not as long a theatrical run.
And E.T. I think E.T. is the longest running movie so far. It ran for almost 363 days. It came in.
Oh my gosh!
June 11th, 1982. Went out of theaters June 9th, 1983.
It's freaking nuts.
I knew E.T. had I think that might be the longest.
Well, can you? What was Way of Water? I just want to see for comparison of because you're literally talking about
the first
2
Avatar
decades.
was in there for a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, me and Neil went and saw that movie 3 or 4 times.
And it's crazy that like
several months.
Part of that is like just the culture has changed, but part of that is also that you don't have milestone movies like that people want to keep going back to the theater for.
Or I think that, but I also think
Avatar: Way of Water was 80 days. So I mean that's still
almost
a decent.
3 months.
Yeah, that's
That was
still a
it.
decent, but it's not. I mean, compared to.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But also, granted, you can adjust for inflation a little bit, but for it to have made just as much, if not more money, it's more money than Titanic, but less than the first Avatar, right? I think Avatar is still top dog.
Way of Water, yes.
And then Way of Water,
it didn't beat out the original,
right?
Yeah.
But it's just crazy that it was in 80 days in the theaters, and it still garnered that much.
Yeah.
Now, granted, that's also I know that's probably just domestic time frame. I'm sure worldwide it probably stayed in theaters for forever, but. It is insane to me that I think, too, this is a paradigm shift in general of, like you said, it's the convenience of having streaming and the wanting of, I want to just be able to view this at home in the comfort of my own home and not pay, $13, $14 per ticket at the theater for everyone in my family. But it's also, I think, too, that the studios are trying to mimic that same kind of success. I mean, as much crap as we give Marvel, rightfully so, the striking of gold that they had with the Infinity Saga up to Endgame was that you could consistently count on your hand how many movies were going to be releasing within a calendar year that were going to be huge hits at the box office and were going to carry pretty much the entirety of that year because of a Marvel movie coming out. And they became these penultimate cultural events for that year that ultimately added to, well, this is the secret sauce we got to capitalize on. This is what we got to keep coming back with as a production studio. So I think you really do still have that lingering beyond Infinity, or the Infinity Saga, where they're trying to create, like we just joked about franchise film fatigue, and it's like they're wanting to create all these big blockbusters that come out and make a splash, and they become the next Top Gun Maverick. They become something that was like, oh, we struck gold.
They're trying to capture lightning in a bottle twice, but they can't figure out how to do it because all the other ones happened organically and naturally. I mean, these cultural events like Return of the King and like Marvel, like Titanic, like Avatar.
Well, it was almost like the risk that was involved was a little bit more calculated.
Yeah.
Whereas now they're
It's
throwing
like they're just,
out $200, $300 million
to try to stay PG. It's like they're throwing shit at a fan to see what sticks. I mean, and
it just splatters everywhere.
It just splatters everywhere. And it's like, okay, I mean, if that's what you want to do, that's exactly what I think of Marvel now. They're just throwing whatever, and whatever just gets splattered everywhere. It's like, yep, that's our movie. It's like Blob loves his holes.
and unfortunately,
that is just like,
I know, it's terrible.
I don't know. Every time I think of how far Marvel has sunk, that's the one character that always pops in my mind. I'm just like, what were you all going for? Like, I don't understand.
And they would consider that movie a hit because it was. It was for that year. That's what's sad.
Was it? I thought the only one that managed
is
to
that
be a
not
hit
Guardians?
was... No.
Oh, I was thinking that was Guardians.
That was Quantumania.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that was Ant-Man.
See, I already forgot about it. I choose to forget about that movie.
Yeah.
But no, I also think, too, it's sad because you have movies like Fall Guy that fall through the cracks. You have those that you want, you see it as lightning in a bottle. We've rated it highly. We said, honestly, since Dune Part 2 is the one movie that was worth going to see in the theaters.
The only two so far, really.
that have been, great movies that sadly it seems like more people are going to miss.
They're worth the theater experience.
Right.
Yeah. Well, when your theater has AC.
And that's the weird thing is it used to be that these were the type of films that you could... There were certain films that would be flops in the box office, but they would stay long enough to really showcase, okay, they weren't great, and then they would grow, they would have a cultural like event afterwards when they hit VHS or home video, and people would go and pick them up, and it would become a cult classic, or people would be like, oh my gosh, it found new life.
Yeah,
but it's sad because it's like now, if it doesn't succeed within 2 weeks at the theaters, you're already seeing like,
pulling the plug,
we have to get this on life support and get it out to the viewers at home because we've got to capitalize on this now and get them to buy this if they can watch it at home, and they'll pay the $20 price tag. Yeah. I don't know. Well, I do want to kind of follow up on this a little bit down the road just to see if maybe they can recoup some of what the movie cost to make it back, because I really do hope something like this doesn't flop.
It sucks because all it does is teach Hollywood to not take chances on original IP like that.
Exactly.
I mean, it was based on a former IP, but it still was an original take compared to what we have now with all the franchises that have just been ran into the ground. And the more they see, well, nobody wants original stuff. They just want more Marvel, more DC, more whatever. And it's like, no, we really don't. I mean...
Well, even the worst part about that, though, is like you've got Mufasa. Stupid movie like that coming out.
Yeah.
And it's not going to do good in theaters. No. It's going to do okay because it's a kid's movie, but it's not going to do great. And they're still going to say it did better than a film like Fall Guy, so we need to keep going with this. We need to do another Lion King movie.
The Little Mermaid was a flop.
Yep.
But it's still made, I think, worldwide. Was it like $400 or $500 million?
Yeah.
That's
I mean that's the thing. Mufasa could be the same way. I mean, it's a flop in terms of how big their big successes have been.
Yeah. Well, and compared to their budgets, which are now over $300 million for no reason.
True. Yeah. True. And I mean, marketing kings that's what Disney does best is shove it down your throat and in your face to make you like it and want to watch it. But I you're right, Sean. I think for the most part, it's wearing thin. It's catching up with them, and for people for so long, I think that's kind of the negative side effect of what has happened to Fall Guy is people are less willing to take chances on going to see a movie like that because it's too original, and we've gotten too used to not only the franchise flicks, and while we have franchise fatigue setting in, there's still huge numbers that show up for Fast 10 and for Transformers movies. But you also have the issue of people have been bitten too many times by trying something original, and it's not rewarding.
Yeah,
and
I watched Cronenberg's film.
Right.
It was not rewarding.
God.
and I think you're right. Now, granted, I don't think Fall Guy fell into that category of advertising, but you're right. Way too often do we see these stupid highbrow, uppity types from
the
Hollywood.
Green Knight was one.
Yeah,
well, heck, Monkey Man just recently.
The
Man,
biggest one from last year had to have been Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yeah.
And talk about the most overrated piece of garbage that I've seen in a long time. 3 hours that I won't get back.
It's just a very dull and boring ass movie. I was just like,
it is.
I was just like, there was no reason for that movie to be 3.5 hours long.
I mean, think about this though.
It's just
this
pretentiousness.
Movie, exactly. This movie's gonna. It's already streaming. All that's gonna do is make people, when the next good movie comes out, people are just gonna say, in 2 weeks it'll be streaming. I'll just wait.
Yeah.
And I'll buy it streaming.
You're right. It sets the precedent.
It's setting that precedent. That's exactly right. And I hate that because I'm okay with I love purchasing films. I love buying movies, and I buy the hard copies of movies.
Yeah, if they're worth it.
If it's one that I'm gonna keep, I buy the disc because the quality is way better, and I'm a snob. But if I'm gonna watch a movie, I want to see it in the theater. If it's good enough, I'll buy it when it comes out. I would much rather go see it 2, maybe even 3 times in the theater. If it's that kind of film, like Dune, I would gladly pay to go see that multiple times as long as it's in the theater. And then I'm patient enough to wait for when it comes out on disc, and then I'll buy it like I've done. But I think you get to the point where these films, just because they're not doing so well, or even if they are doing good and they think, oh, we'll leave it in theaters, but we'll go ahead and get it out streaming too, so the couch potatoes will buy it up. That's just going to make these people say, I'm never going to the theater now.
Right.
I'm just going to stay home and wait.
And it's funny because that was the fear that was realized
With
right
COVID.
after COVID.
Yeah.
And now, as much as they were trying, the theater owners and the studios were trying to come to terms and not killing that business, it's almost like we're inching ever closer towards it.
It just goes back to they never should have shut things down for COVID.
No, well, yeah, true.
It was a big
it's
mistake.
wrecked so many things
Yes, it
that
has.
you're still feeling the repercussions of,
Yep.
and this is one industry that, because in this day and age of being stubborn with technology, there's no going back.
Nope.
People have you've given them a little
we
taste.
still have people at our church that still just watch it at home
Yeah.
instead of coming and fellowshipping with other believers.
And
It's like,
yes,
I
you're right.
understand if you're not capable of getting out of the house, then absolutely that's a great medium. Facebook Live and all that is great for you to be able to sit at home and still worship and still learn. But the community aspect of it does not exist when you watch it on the couch.
Right.
And COVID did that, and there's still people that are perfectly capable of getting out and going.
Yep.
But they're spoiled. They'd rather sit at home and eat their snacks and pause it, or we'll just finish the sermon later after we do what we want to do.
I was going to say, and it's sad
like,
because you're right. I mean, and especially when it comes to the movie going experience, I mean, that is supposed to be. I mean, you're talking about worship, which right there, it's like that enough of a reason to get up. And
Yeah.
go.
You're not willing to sacrifice
But
a
I'm
little bit
saying
of your
it's
time just to
right,
go
yeah.
to the church.
That's just become the thing. If we
Right.
can watch it at home, we'll do that.
But it's like with movies, I agree with what you said, Keith. It's like you have to make it this event and a spectacle. But the thing is it's almost like because we're given so many avenues of just, I call it just junk food TV, junk food movies. It's like you have so much content out there anymore. It's kind of hard to pinpoint, well, what is going to be that spectacle event that's going to get people out and about. And ultimately, when you have the theater, or when you have the studios trying to recreate that special secret sauce every single time, they're going to flop more than they can.
Well, I think
because
that's
again,
the biggest
it's not
problem,
natural at that point.
Yeah, it's not natural, and people no longer trust that Hollywood is going to put something in a theater worthy of going to the theater to see.
Right.
It's in the past, I mean, movies are built up, and you didn't have the internet and streaming services for one. I mean, that is a big part of it. But now, like, even with Marvel, as massive a success they were during the Infinity Saga, that was still during the age of streaming and the internet. But they were an event, and they were actually well made that you enjoyed it, you wanted to come back for the next one.
Yeah.
But now I can't, like, again, we can't remember the last time. Endgame, No Way Home, I guess, the last time we enjoyed seeing a Marvel movie in theaters. Same thing for DC. I don't know if I've ever, other than, the Dark Knight trilogy, which isn't part of the DCU, but after that, there hasn't really been a DC property well done.
Well, even last year we talked about it a few times. Barbenheimer was one of those kind of
Now
events.
that was the thing, and that came about organically.
Yes.
It wasn't intended,
Yep.
but they were both two huge movies that were popular, that people actually liked and felt they were worth going to the theater for. And Fall Guy, just as hard as they did try to market it, I feel like, it just didn't have anything that I think resonated with people enough to convince them that this is a movie you need to go see in theaters. One of the things, sadly, about franchise IPs like Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is when you have that IP name, people are a little bit more willing to give it a chance because they have the nostalgia for the others.
Yep.
So they're like, okay, I want this to be good, so I'm going to give it a chance. Now, whether it is or isn't, I didn't mind that one, but there's definitely been better made. And as far as Disney goes with any IPs they currently own, they've been butchering all of them.
Well, this kind of segues beautifully into our second headline topic, which it's funny because this one is definitely looking to be one of those big spectacle events, having 2 parts released within the same
I think
summer.
this one might, at least the first part, might.
Part 3 and 4 are still looking to be shot and funded.
Yep.
That is Kevin Costner's huge epic extravaganza Horizon, an American saga.
I think enough hype has been built around this that people's curiosity is going to get them to see part 1. Now, if it's not good, they may not come back for the other parts, but...
I would say curiosity and also, I think, length.
Length.
If it's 2.5 hours long, max, I think people will try it. If they realize it's 2.5 hours long and there's also another part and a potential 3 and 4, people are going to say, I'll wait for streaming. And it's funny because I think Costner, he's taking out a second mortage on one of his properties.
That's insane.
He left the show Yellowstone
He's going all in on making sure these movies, these are supposed to be his magnum opus.
This is his passion project, no doubt. So what do you all think about as far as Costner?
I want to see it. I don't think that's surprising at all. In fact, I had just listened to, actually texted you the other day when I was cutting my grass about Nerdrotic's podcast from Friday, where it's not just Costner. Like, they did a whole thing about how Hollywood is having a hard time finding funding for movies, even movies that have huge names in them, like Kevin Costner, that normally would be a draw, and production companies would be like, oh yeah, Brad Pitt's in it, everyone's going to see that, we'll give you this money. But that's no longer the case. People aren't just showing up for movies just because A-list actors in it.
You could literally say that about the Fall Guy. Ryan Gosling
is as big as you get right now,
especially coming off of Barbie.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like his name should be.
The fact that people aren't drawn to the theater the way they used to, and the fact that production companies don't know what they can bank on, it's like, Kevin Costner in the past would be a huge draw, but that's not a guarantee anymore. And the fact that he wants to make these epic movies in 4 parts, kind of like Zack Snyder with Rebel Moon, and luckily Netflix was fully happy to fund him. But
who knows? Maybe we'll find part 3 and 4 on Netflix.
Yeah,
we don't know.
Apple or Netflix, they seem to be the only two that are like, oh, you got a big name, we'll fund
I think,
you.
Honestly, after Killers of the Flower Moon and Napoleon tanked,
Apple's like, we'll hold off a little
done
bit.
With the high
Maybe
risk.
we'll see. Netflix has had movies that haven't been like. Rebel Moon hasn't been insanely popular.
For every Rebel Moon, there's Adam Sandler, which literally drives traffic to their service.
True.
And Happy Gilmore 2's on its way. It's
I'm still not convinced that's going to be a good idea.
I agree.
I'm going to give it a chance. I will, but
again, I'm with you. It's like, why make it for a sequel's sake? But the fact that Adam Sandler is on board, and look, no, his current movies have not been the same as his 90s runaway success and what we know him for, but it is still like I've been entertained.
Yeah.
I've
see.
enjoyed what I've seen.
It's like so many other franchise IPs that I'm cautiously optimistic. It's like I'm hoping, based on track record, they'll be okay.
Do we think that Costner's going to secure funding for Horizon?
I think he will.
I think he will too. I think he has more of his own money that he can throw at it, but I don't think he wants to. Because
Because
I think he's not somebody that's gonna say I couldn't get funding for it, I'm gonna just cancel this
Oh, yeah,
project.
no, I mean,
he's gonna pay for it fully if he has to.
In the
I think he's
article,
just
we'll have
trying-
it linked below, but it even he strictly says he's like, oh no, 3 and 4 are happening. I just don't know where the money's coming from.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, he's bold.
Yeah.
He's going to
bold
do
move,
it. He's
Cotton.
going to
Yeah.
do it. Yeah.
So-
83 million, I think, of his own money so far.
63 million.
Was
I
it
think.
63?
Yeah.
Okay.
And some are even estimating that he also had to pay. There was some other costs involved, like it's upwards of 115 million of his own money.
okay.
Oh, wow.
So we know it caused him a divorce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yet his family,
Yeah.
his family was there.
Yeah.
His kids came to the
I think
premiere.
it's partly the reason he's not going to be on Yellowstone.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh, we
I think
know
it's-
that.
Yeah.
He says it's not, but everyone
No.
else was like,
Yeah.
no, like we wanted to do it. And he was like, well,
can't-
I got a week till we start filming, so if we can do it in a week, we can do it.
Right.
And he said that, but he said it's their fault because they couldn't accommodate him in
Yeah.
that week.
Wow.
I'm like, yeah, that's their fault. Thanks,
Yeah.
Kevin.
Not to mention, I mean, I there's been mixed reviews that have come out from Cannes. It premiered at Cannes, which is over now. But I don't like reading reviews beforehand. I want to see it
I try
fresh.
not to, but
Same. And it's like, there's certain ones that fall through the cracks. Thankfully, this one isn't. And when I saw that it premiered there to mixed reviews, I was like, well, that's all I need to know. But that doesn't tell me anything based on Hollywood's current state,
Yeah,
especially the people who
Cannes.
show at Cannes. Exactly.
That's what I was going to say.
I'm like-
Cronenberg's film
Was praised,
was
standing
praised
ovation.
at Cannes.
Yep.
So if his movie was mixed reviews, that gives me hope that it's probably going to be something I like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
Yes.
I am. I mean, again, we're going to probably be reviewing both parts that come out. One's at the end of June, and part 2 starts at the end of August.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or beginning of August. One or the other.
Somewhere.
But
They're about 2
They're
months
literally,
apart.
they're about a month and a half apart, and it's kind of interesting. I mean, I do think it's a little bit of a. I mean, if you knew that part 1 and part 2 were it, I think they would be successes. The fact that he's thinking part 3 and 4 and the way they come out, it's just such an odd way
Yeah.
of presenting a
I
movie.
don't know what he's doing.
I don't
But
either.
He does Western, and he does it good.
Yeah.
And so I'm hoping that because it's
I mean, I
One of
liked
those
the
kind of films,
trailer.
I
I mean,
think.
I thought I kind of laughed because when I saw the trailer, I was like, "Well, this is Yellowstone." But I
Yeah,
mean, that-
yeah,
but,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
I mean, I did like the trailer.
Yep. And Sienna Miller is definitely a reason to see that. And there's even another young one. She's also in that too. That another younger actress.
I don't know. I could look it
I-
up if you
yeah,
like.
if you-
Do you want to
there's-
know? Yeah.
I want to know because she was in the trailer, and I was like,
what love is.
I was like, who was that? All right, she's gonna be known after this.
to show me. Well, I will show you, Brandon.
But I can move on to our final headline. Just want to get this out there, and it's just kind of funny, so I thought I'd mention it. But Danny DeVito is definitely on board to play Wario if they approach him.
He
for
said he
another-
wants. Yeah, he would love to play, and I'm like, yes,
And I saw
absolutely yes.
one tweet that summed up what I think everybody would be feeling, and that's like, if he's doing it, please make it live action. And I was like, absolutely.
I mean, that would be great, but at the same time, I'm like, it's already animated. I'm
Yeah.
fine with
No,
him
I
voicing
know.
Wario. But yeah, Abby Lee is the name of the girl I think you're thinking of.
Probably blonde.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm thinking of her.
Yeah.
he's like I'm thinking of her right
Thinking of her.
Yeah.
She's in that trailer. Mm.
But yeah, no, I
I'll
would
go out
be
west.
100% on board with.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I would be 100% on board with Danny DeVito as Wario.
Oh, I
That's
thought you
just
were
like-
talking about her.
that too. That
Please,
too.
I'll 100% be on board.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's go out west and settle.
out west. Way out west.
I've
That's
got
all
a
I
whole
know.
frontier.
Gosh.
Yeah, so I think it would be hilarious. The fact that, look, this is what I love about Danny DeVito is he
He knows what the people want.
does. I mean, look, I ain't gonna lie. I mean, Jersey Mike's is good, but when I saw that commercial and he's in it, it's,
Oh, yeah.
it's funny.
Yes, it
it's
is.
Danny DeVito.
He
He's
is
funny.
one of the last like true entertainers left. I
Right.
mean, he is. He
He
an
doesn't care if
excellent-
you think if you're making fun of him or his size
Yeah.
or what. He don't
Yeah.
care. I mean, honestly, look, watch any of It's Always Sunny, and I
Oh,
mean,
I love
he
It's
makes
Always
that
Sunny.
show, man.
That-
It's so great.
Yeah. Mm.
So yeah, I think it'd be funny. It'd be a good get if they go along with that. And plus, I think he would just oversell it and do great. Alrighty, guys, that's gonna do it for our headlines. Let's move into our final segment of the night, our relationship segment.
Let me tell you about the birds and the bees and the flowers and the trees and the moon up above. And a thing called love.
I scared him. Keith jumped.
I look on these
I'm over here
notes
laughing at the
every
scene
week
in my head.
Oh,
to find
not there.
the thing. It's not there.
Yeah, it's
but
not
what
there.
is there is this is a video review of the 2021
that's always there.
Halloween movie.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
I'm like,
that's my statement for when we get copyright struck.
He just changes the year
Just
and
change
movie.
the name of it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
always there. No, I didn't jump. I was laughing. I was thinking of this clip that was from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia when all the P. Diddy stuff dropped, and it's like, and they said this is P. Diddy talking to his producers, and it's like a clip from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia where Danny DeVito runs in and he's talking to Charlie Day and the other guy, and they're trying to make like an album, and he's like, guys, we definitely need to make a song about how we do not diddle kids, and they're like, what are you talking about? It's like, we just need to don't diddle kids, it's wrong, it's bad, and they're like, we can't. It's like, if we make that song, people will think we're diddling kids. He's like, no, that's why we make the song, so they know we're not diddling. And I'm just sitting there
never
He's
like,
got
seen that
another
show.
one. Oh, there's
it's
another
great.
clip when because he jokes about Epstein's Island. And they're like, what do
Yes.
you mean you were on Epstein's Island? He's like, I don't know. I just happened to be there.
yes. I said we were just on the beach. I didn't know all the other stuff was going on.
Yeah.
No, it's a funny show.
It is. It's kind of like I don't know. I guess say Simpsons. Simpsons is immortal at this point. It never ends.
no.
It is one of those shows that you just never. I don't even. It's still going on.
It
isn't
is. It is.
Yeah.
I mean, they do have shorter seasons, so I think that's one reason why like they're able to keep going as long as they have. Because I think they're like maybe 12 episodes.
and we
per
watch
season.
we watch Welcome to Wrexham, and
yeah.
and McElhenney is on the show.
Okay.
and because he owns the soccer team with Ryan Reynolds, and
Oh.
he jokes all the time about how the show is just never ceasing. And he's just like, it's going to go on forever. Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to be doing this show forever.
And honestly, you know what? More power to him. I mean, it's kind of. I'm trying to compare it to something else because there are other things that have done that. I mean, honestly, that's what I thought about Walking Dead for forever. It finally ended.
yeah.
but
No, it's
there were
not.
times,
Now it's got like 3 different spin-offs.
That's true
so,
too.
yeah.
Yep, but-
South Park's been on since 90.
wow, yeah.
Yeah, it's been on for
true,
years.
but what's weird about
Forever.
them is now they're just doing like specials.
No, they still have seasons.
They do
Yeah, the specials are
part
of
okay,
Paramount
okay.
Plus, but they do still have seasons.
Okay.
They actually, that's a whole complicated. So like they have like a whole lawsuit going on right now because of that with HBO Max.
What's the relationship?
Yeah,
segment?
let's get
Yeah.
into a relationship segment.
Yeah.
So I actually did mean to put it in the notes and I completely forgot. It's how do you manage stress?
Mm.
And I was thinking in terms, it could be relationally with other people, or it could
Or with
even be
yourself.
with yourself.
Yeah.
How do you manage stress in general?
I wasn't going to bring it up.
What'd you do?
I wasn't going to bring it up at all. I was going to try to get through the rest of the show without bringing it up. But since you just brought that up, right now I'm managing stress silently. I just found out that a guy that I work with at church died.
Holy crap!
And so I'm like, I was trying to get through the second half of the show.
Yeah.
I was pretty quiet earlier when I got
thought
the text.
I noticed something. You were over there, and I was like, something's going on.
One of the police officers that works at our church, who I serve on the security team, and I'm with him probably 2 Sundays a month for a couple hours each day. And I don't know the cause of death, but he died. And so it's
man.
like,
I hate to hear that.
so it's like trying to manage that quietly is something that I have been able to do.
I mean, this
So
was just
the
sudden.
stress,
This was
yeah,
not,
it just happened today. I just read about it.
man.
So
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to
it's
hear
just,
that.
Yeah.
but yeah, managing stress quietly would be my forte. I was just over talking to Wyatt next door before you all got there, and he's talking to, we were just chatting about girls and school and all that kind of stuff, and he was talking about people trying to get under his skin and everything, and how he tries to like just kind of let that, he thinks about it and worries about it, but he doesn't show it on the outside.
Yeah.
And that's definitely, I can relate to that. I manage that stuff with myself, like internally.
I
can
tend to
compartmentalize stuff pretty easily.
I tend to do that. I don't. Yeah, I'm usually more quiet about things. And
I think this is just a man
Yeah,
thing.
with
Because
us.
I'm with
yeah.
you.
Well, I
Yeah.
think
I
anybody
think most
that's ever
men tend to internalize things more so
I think
than
anything
than women,
we've read about the difference in sexes is women wear everything out on their sleeve, and men compartmentalize. We can put stuff in a box and leave it there till it's the
I
right
very
time to open it.
rarely. I mean, there's certain people obviously I'm close to that I like with you guys that I might be willing to discuss certain things, but very rarely am I open about discussing things that are bothering me or things that are it'd be like, what's wrong? Oh, nothing, because I just would rather deal with it on my own, get through my day, and not. I also just don't like people fussing over. Like I like actual help and advice, but I hate like when people like just. It's not that like not that I dislike like pity or sympathy. It's just one of the things where people are like, well, what can I do for this and that? And when people are constantly asking you how to help, I'm just like, you can't help. I appreciate that you want to, but you can't. So I need you to stop asking now. Like it's like once I say I'm fine, like please let it be, because and I do understand the concern and I appreciate the care and the concern.
And
but,
sometimes I mean, the stress relief is just getting it off your chest. Sometimes like that's enough.
Yeah, I think that's why I brought it up, because I'm like I just needed to say
you got to say it.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's enough of a release that you kind of, at least, it's out there in the ether. And I mean, a lot of times, I'll be honest, it's like sometimes it's there. It can be trying to hold things in for too long, but also it's kind of a private matter of like I'd rather just go to God in prayer. And to me, that sometimes is, or like you said, it's closer friends and family that I will let out certain things and mention. But it's tough. I mean, it depends too on the type of stress, whether it's a personal stress or sometimes even like last week. I think you all knew the PGA Championship was going on, and that was a lot of stress at work and just
it was
busy throughout the week. Yeah.
A lot of stress for Louisville in general. We showed up.
Right. Yeah. But no, I mean, it's just like sometimes work gets busy and you just have weeks where it's like I'm not texting back and forth as much, or I don't have as much free time or spare time. And it's just like, it's a sprint to the finish. You're just trying to get through the week. And there are times where I try to decompress, and I hate when that happens, because then I feel like I just wasted time or I didn't fully take it in. But there's also times where it's like I don't have enough time to think. I just got to get in the motion of running and gunning, and get past the finish, cross the finish line.
And sometimes what helps is taking the time to think, and sometimes you don't, and you have to run and gun. But then when you are able to get it off your chest and think about it, like even like if it's something that like you can't control, like I talked about it a little bit over there with you all about like the dates I wanted off at work that I couldn't get, and I was aggravated. I didn't blame anybody because I understand perfectly like why the situation. Like I wasn't mad at my boss or anything like that, but I was still like aggravated because it's like, dang, like I really like that's the only time my family actually can get off work. So like that was, if I was going to do something with them. So it agitated me. So I did like I was talking to my mom or whatever, and I did kind of express my frustration with her or whatever, and she was just like, oh, well, I'm really sorry. I was like, no, it's fine. I mean, it's not like I understand. Like all I needed was just to vent my frustration, to be like, man, this really stinks. Like, I mean, that sucks. But then once it was over, I was like being a rational person. I was like, well, that's why. Like, I mean, I understand fully, and it's nothing that can be done about that. So then after being frustrated for a little bit, I moved on, because I was like, okay, I feel better now, because now I'm like, I vented my frustration and there's nothing that can be done about it. Oh, well, next year I'll just, now that I know that's pretty much the same week every year now, I'll just ask off like at the beginning of the year or something. Be like, hey, I want that week.
Well, and not to bring it kind of full circle, but we were talking about, imaginary friends earlier. Yeah. And I'd say they're not really imaginary friends, but it's like, to me, this is where I equate it to like being an adult now and just voicing it out and being like, okay, God's listening. But it's like getting those frustrations out, and it's like I'll talk to myself. Obviously I live alone with my pup, and she'll look at me weird sometimes, like, what is wrong with you? But I mean, it's like I'll trying to be thinking out loud and get stuff off my chest to think through it, because there are times where I've realized like, mulling over it in my head, it's weird, but your brain connects dots a lot quicker and faster than you can even process them. So you start going down a very dark tunnel real quick sometimes that you need to rapidly pull yourself out of before it takes over. Yeah. And so you kind of have to pull on the reins and be like, all right, I got to put the brakes on. And sometimes putting the brakes on is just, again, speaking it, because sometimes there's things I'll say out loud and I'm like, man, that really does sound stupid. Like, I can't believe I was thinking that.
It's almost like confession.
Yes.
Not that I'm into confession, but I'm just like,
it is funny.
It's like confessing with yourself, bringing it into the light.
And of course, again, I think when it comes to other issues, there's been times where it could be, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but things that I've taken to my parents before, whether it's life advice or experience that I know they would be best suited for and help me with, because there'd probably be times where they'd be like, you can come to us with a lot more than that. But it's funny because it's not even that I I don't want to burden them with it because I know they're my parents. They almost are used to it and they would want that. But it's also, it's kind of like
you also
what
want
you
to figure
said.
it out for yourself too.
Right.
Though. Like stand on your own 2 feet. you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to showcase like they've raised me to be that self-sufficient. But
Yeah.
also, like you said, Keith, sometimes I don't, and maybe this is a guy thing too, and maybe we stress about it too much or make stressful situations, but making a mountain out of a molehill. Like I don't want, and I get like sometimes there's issues where that's a problem. It's like, no, this is a problem you should take to someone and maybe get it off your chest, and you withhold it and internalize it, and you shouldn't. And I think that is a manly thing to do. We, sometimes we internalize more than we should.
Pride.
Yeah. Very prideful.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
I can handle this.
Yeah, I don't need anyone's help.
Right.
Brian was trying to put this salad in a Ziploc bag, and Sean was like, Keith, I was standing right next to him watching him, and it was like not going. And Sean was eventually like, Keith, would you help him? And Brian's like, no, I got it. Like he did not.
It's a struggle, dude.
And it's I was like, that is like just the most man thing. It's like, look, I'm going to do
Right.
this.
Yeah.
It's like, even though what I'm
He had
doing.
an idea of how it was going to work, but it wasn't working.
Did it work though?
No, he had to change. He had to change ideas.
He had this bowl that was like 3 times bigger than the Ziploc baggie, trying to get it to pour into the bag, and it was not. But yeah, it's
I was
just one of
with
those
him at
things.
the beginning. I'm just like,
I thought
that's
like,
a quick way to do
he
it.
had it
And then I'm
going,
like,
but
that's
then
not gonna work.
it just wasn't. The physics wasn't there.
No.
Honestly, and there's the stubbornness too as a man.
Yeah.
You sometimes are like, you know what, I got to figure out it don't work in order for me
Yeah.
to admit it,
Yeah.
and then come to terms with it.
Well, and sometimes you do because you might get stressed over something that you don't need to be stressed about after you do sit and think about it. Because there's times where I've been like ticked off or stressed over something, but not had the time, like you said, to really sit and think. And then when I'll sit and break it down and how to fix the problem, I'll realize, oh, there's actually not a problem here at all. This will work out.
Right.
And then I'll laugh at myself because I just spent like 3 hours stressed about something that I didn't need to stress
Same.
about.
Yeah.
And there's things too that it's like it's kind of like an inevitable hurdle that you're gonna have to jump.
Yeah.
And I stress about it till I get over that hurdle, and then it's actually there's a classic line in a Chris Rice song that I loved growing up called 8th Grade, and he's like, I'm gonna butcher the line too. It's like, why don't we only worry about why don't we worry about the past? Maybe because we already know we made it. And it's like I always just like that because I'm like, that is true. It's like you never stress about what's already come before because you're like that test you had to take or that girl you had to tell you liked or you had to break up with somebody. It was like it sucked in the moment and your stomach's in knots, but it's in the past. It's done.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yep.
And he's like, and then the way he precedes that line is, and why should we worry about the future when it's the way that God's ordained it?
Yeah.
And it just
I was getting ready to ask because I'm drawing a blank. Is Chris Rice? Is that a Christian artist?
Yeah, he's a Christian.
Okay, because
Christian
I was going to
artist.
say that's like the perfect
Christian
painting
artist name.
of well, it's the perfect painting of the work that's already been done.
Yeah. Right.
It's like, why would we worry about any of that when the victory's already been won?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why again,
Yeah.
and that's and it's funny because with it being the story, it's kind of a silly story of him remembering 8th grade, but that's what I like about it is because especially the worries you had at that age are not the same you have as an adult, but yet the fear and loathing you may have now as an adult is no more the same that you should have had then.
Yep.
Or it's about the same as what you should have then. Now, granted, look, I get there's tragic circumstances and unfortunate things. I mean, having a death of a friend is
the thing is
awful.
I know I've known the guy and I've talked to the guy and I know where he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
I
true.
know he was a believer, so I'm not stressing about that. I'm just it's going to be weird.
It's a
It's
tough
still
into
sad.
church.
Yeah,
It
it's sad
yeah.
to know that he's
Yeah.
not there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean it's always a tragic loss for us here on earth when we have to let go of loved ones and you
Yeah.
have to endure that pain of not being able to see them again. But I mean, that is the faith and the hope that we carry with the resurrection. And I mean, again, that's probably the biggest stress relief you could have. So that's what I carry with me every day that I can. So
wow,
that's
that was a good one.
I think
Yeah.
that's gonna do it for
That
this
was
episode.
fantastic.
Hey,
Yeah,
sweet. All
yeah.
right, good deal. That worked out.
Man, if that guy wouldn't have died, this wouldn't have worked out.
Not saying that.
Sorry.
Well,
Maybe
he's
you can be
laughing
lighthearted
over
about it.
Alrighty, guys, that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We appreciate all of our viewers and listeners out there every single week. And it's always a pleasure to do this show with you all. As always, you can like, share, subscribe on all of our favorite social medias right there at the bottom of your screen. Search for Red Moon Book on Facebook, Red Moon Tweet on X, Red Moon Pics on Instagram, and, of course, Red Moon Productions on both YouTube and we're on that Rumble as well. Like, share, subscribe. We appreciate all the love. There's also that old-fashioned way of reaching out to us, Keith.
RMPodcast at redmoonproductions.com.
You know, when I'm stressing, that right there I think of in my head, and it just
makes me happy.
shiver right up my spine. Alrighty, guys, that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Until next time, I'm one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host,
Sean Sebastian.
And
For you, Keith Cheatham.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. For more reviews, previous podcast shows, and everything Red Moon, visit our website, redmoonproductions.com. You can also like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter by searching for Red Moon Productions, LLC. We'll see you at the movies.